This was also another set design that was that I helped create. It was Posada Mágica. This was another one, Pocha, which a group of my friends had worked together to spoken word artists, and they put together this group of vignettes about talking about border issues, and they asked me to help them out with their set. That's what I did. Here's another set. I Have Something to Tell You, Mi Amor, by Ana Castillo. This was at the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center. And I really enjoy doing these types of sets because it really helped me break the plane that painting would do. And and I got to read really fabulous works by really wonderful authors, and I helped bring that to life, which I think is really, really wonderful, and I will continue to do so as long as I am. Played by Carlos Monton, again at Guadalupe. My friend Nicolás Valdez and Maria Ibarra, they put together a show that I helped with I created the tree. And they took this show and we toured it into California. This was at La Peña. And we used a lot of recycled materials to create this stage. When I had gotten back, I started working with the Esperanza Center, and they asked me to help prepare the stage for Noche Azul. Has anybody been to Noche Azul? Well, if you haven't had the chance, please go, because she is an absolutely wonderful, beautiful singer, and she just moves you with her voice. So what I was in charge of doing was setting the stage to help present her show. And this was some of the stuff that I came up with. Started to work with paper to create part of this set. This is paper. We started with paper right here. I was inspired by, when you go to church, they have those banners and cutouts, papel picado. And so this is butcher paper. They gave me a budget hanging. Of $50. Hanging butcher paper. So I had to figure out what to do with $50, right? And so and then I really enjoyed it as a ethereal type of practice, right? You work with paper, you have to be very careful that you're not going to tear it, and you have to have attention to detail. And this is also another work that I did for the Day of the Virgen, and this was all cut paper, and this is about maybe 8 feet tall. I'm sorry, this is like maybe 12 feet tall by 8 feet wide. And these are different sections of paper. And then there's a light behind this cutout right here. They're rolled up in a roll in the back of the Esperanza Center somewhere at the moment. And a lot of people came to ask me and said, well, why are you going to do paper? It's going to get ruined. It's not going to last. I don't have an answer. Has anybody heard of the Teatro Campesino? Yes, of course, you should know about the Teatro Campesino, founded by Luis Valdez. And I had the opportunity to work on an outdoor play. This was, we ended up doing the backdrops here as well, but we ended up creating an outdoor pageant play, and I ended up painting these huge giant puppets, which were a lot of work and a lot of fun, and we created a really huge tree, and it was about the story of the Popol Vuh, the creation story, which I thought was really awesome, because how many times do we see that in play format? I've always been interested in painting, and for me it has been always a solitary activity, and it was a way that I can work through the emotions that I was feeling and work through the thoughts that I wanted to say or couldn't say or anything like that. But it was also so very personal, right? Well, in 1 year I had about maybe 6 deaths in my family. My grandfather died, my uncle died, my other grandfather died, my grandmother died, my neighbor died, and my other uncle died. So as you can imagine, that was a very difficult time period. And I was reading, reading and praying and trying to figure that all out. But one of the things that has always been influences is the idea of honoring the people who we love, honoring the people who have inspired us, but the idea of honoring. And I was asked around this time, right after this time, by the Cultural Arts Center to participate in a community mural that was called Líderes de la Comunidad, and they had asked me if I would paint my uncle Diamond, who had recently passed away, and of course I wanted to rise to that challenge. And here is where this was the first mural that I worked on, and this is the mural that made me. I came from the West Side. My whole family was from the West Side, and my family grew up in the West Side. And one of the things that I wanted to commemorate was my grandfather. This is an image of my grandfather. He was Don Fito of Las Carpas Garcia, which was a traveling tent show that traveled around Aztlán, basically following the farm workers to provide entertainment with their own language, right? And him and his brothers and sisters would set up the tent, take down the tent. It was a traveling circus that followed them. How many here are familiar with the carpas? No? Okay. My uncle is Rudy Diamond, yes. So it was. So I wanted to honor his memory because it was from the carpas, these traveling tent shows, that the Teatro Campesino was. They inspired Luis Valdez to create the Teatro Campesino, and they inspired a lot of. I think they inspired a lot of artists, spoken word artists, to express with their own language and just to express. So this was my grandfather as he was a comedian, a cómico, Don Fito in the Carpa Garcias. And so this was a mural to depict all the leaders of the community, and I definitely wanted to have him in there. And so the other image that I wanted to make sure to honor was my uncle Rudy Diamond Garcia, which was one of the founding members of the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center. I remember as a kid him telling us, talking about art and always being very passionate about it. And whenever he painted, he was a painter himself. Him and his brothers, my father, he had 4 brothers, and they were all very creative, very passionate individuals. And I have to say, it was seeing that from them that inspired me to take up a pencil and start drawing and to see and to draw the world around me. And so whenever he painted something, it was an event in my family. We all went to go see it. We all went to go look at it. And everybody was so excited about it. Now, the brothers criticized each other. You got the nose wrong, or that's too bad. But there was this sense of enjoyment. So when he passed, I wanted to make sure that I honored his memory with his image. And it was the stories that him and David Gonzalez would talk about, how they would block walk within the community within 5-mile radius to ask people to come. Hey, we're going to give classes. Come learn some skills. Come hang out with us and express yourself. And that has always stayed with me. After that, I was hooked, right? I loved it. I loved being out there at the wall, doing all these really great stuff. And then Sananto came up to me and said, hey, would you lead a mural? And I was all, sure, let's do it. And then they showed me the wall. This is a 2,000 square foot wall. And the minute I saw it, I thought to myself, what did I get myself into? But I took on the challenge. And then furthermore, this is the wall. It's on Sasamora and Guadalupe Street, and it's on the mental health clinic, the Center for Healthcare Services. And so I wanted to make sure that I did this wall justice. And so instead of going up to the wall and just painting whatever it is that I think that mental health meant, one of the things that that Sananto has in place, but then also what I took from my upbringing is that you need to have your community's input. And so what I created is what I like to call a visual survey. And this was a visual survey where we had the facade of the building, and we went ahead and we block walked, and we went to neighborhoods, and we asked them, there is a mural that's going up about mental health. What are your thoughts about it? What are some of the things that you want to see on it? What are some of the images that you want to see in your neighborhood? And that I gave them the opportunity to talk to me, to draw something, to write a poem, however it is that they felt that they can express themselves. After that, we also went inside the clinic, and I spent a couple of days there with my mother, who is an RN, and we sat in the waiting room all day, and we talked with the clients there, and I passed out that visual survey there too. And I talked to a bunch of people. I talked to healthcare workers, social services, doctors, providers, people who are getting treatment. I went to support groups, and I talked to them, and it was from those conversations and those drawings and those poems that I took, and I ended up creating a composition from that. I had one woman who came up to me, she's like, all I want to see is somebody with hope in their eyes. I had another young man who was struggling with his own demons who came up to me and said, I feel like I'm bounded and I can't get up. I've had another woman say that I feel like a number here. Nobody pays attention to me. I had all this feedback from so many different people, which was awesome and just, it was just so powerful all at the same time. So it was from those that we created this composition. So once the composition was done, because it's already 9 feet off the ground, we went ahead and went to 1906, and we created some of that mural in there. We made panels that were later installed on the panels. And we created a composition, and we also invited a youth to come and help, to participate what they were working on. I had one young man who helped us paint, do some underpainting and do some painting, and he was working on it. And then later, while we were installing, he comes up and he says, I didn't know we were working on that. I had told my dad that I helped out on that, and my dad didn't believe me, so can you come and tell him something? And so it was awesome to see this sense of pride that this young person had about the work that he had helped out. Adriana Garcia, they are a husband and wife team. They do tattoos, and they were the they were the mural coordinators for this project, and they facilitated, we did a lot of facilitating with each other and throwing around ideas. So I wasn't reading, but I was looking at the pictures of A Universe in a Nutshell by Stephen F. Hawking, right? Anybody familiar with that book? Anyone? All right. Well, you start reading, it's a lot. You have to read it with a dictionary, or you have to give yourself some time to look at it. But one of the things that I really absolutely love are graphics. And I was looking at the diagrams. And in this one diagram, it talked about how a sun or a star or a planet, or a sun, star, planet, how it moves through space. And as it moves through space, it creates this past cone and a future cone. And so this is one of the reasons why I painted this. And that image stuck with me. There is this cone that represented the past, and then the cone that represented the future, and then in the middle was supposed to be the present, right? And so then that idea really stuck with me, that the past, the future, and the present all come to a point, right? And we're experiencing that one point, and we're being influenced by all that simultaneously. How do you visualize that, right? And so I wanted to continue on from the previous one. And so this piece is called Dying Sun. And that's part of a larger piece. this is mixed media. This is watercolor and pen, ink, Sharpie, whiteout. It's a bunch of different mediums. And it's actually one of the first times that I started really drawing. I mean, I knew how to draw, but I drew. I just wanted, it became a little bit more intimate. I came from doing something that was really big to something that was very intimate and small, right? But yet we're still talking about these suns and this universe. This piece is called material contemplation. So one of the other ideas that we had been talking, that I had been researching about this past, present, and future, coming down to this minute point. But then also this idea that we live in duality. We exist in this dual place, this place of our spirit, which is loving, and you want to hang out, you want to have fun, and you want to be benevolent. You want to make sure that everybody's doing okay. And then we have the other part, which is kind of trapped in our material existence, in the things that bring us down, in our sorrow, in our pain, in our tragedy, and then in all of that which prompts us to act and how we act, right? So this idea of dual, of the material and of the spiritual. So this is to contemplate that material existence of the flesh that is also decaying, that will die. And I wanted to show a movement in painting, right? I wanted to show some sort of movement, but how do you do that with painting, right? So that's I wanted to start using a bunch of different faces and different times of consciousness. So this one is called liminal incubation. And again, this is expanding upon the concept that I was talking about this dying star, this point where everything comes together, right? Is that point our consciousness? What is that point? Where does that point live? Where does it come out? And so I have one up here. And so it breaks up the space into four corners. Where else have you heard four corners? Huh? Well, the four corners, yeah, are, four corners, in some indigenous cultures, you ask permission from the four corners to continue. So I like the idea of breaking up the space and applying attributes to it. So there's the past, present, and the future that's happening. And liminal means time, right? On the edge. I found out that word and I was like, wow, that's a great word. I'm going to use it whenever I can. Liminal. You're walking this edge. You can go either way, right?